Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Clash of Champions review. And this year's Clash of Champions was from the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. And a lot of people probably didn't know that there was a WWE pay-per-view tonight because the go-home shows for both Raw and SmackDown, they were at the Garden last week. They were the go-home shows for Clash of Champions, which didn't get you, both shows didn't get you hyped up for Clash of Champions. The go-home shows for both Raw and SmackDown last week did nothing to get you to be hyped for Clash of Champions. And, that's why people say, if there's a pay-per-view, like on a Sunday, they'll say, oh, I forgot WWE has a pay-per-view tonight, on Sunday. Well, WWE, that's what you get when you don't put effort into your go-home shows, for pay-per-views like you used to. But all in all, Clash of Champions this year, I thought it was a decent show. I mean, it did drag a little bit later on during the show, but all in all, it was a decent show. Wasn't great or perfect by any means. But let's get started with the review. So I'm going to start with the matches that were on the Kickoff show. We had two matches. The first match on the Kickoff show was for the Cruiserweight Championship. It was Drew Gulak versus Humberto Carrillo and Lince Dorado. This was a triple threat match for the Cruiserweight Championship. And I gotta say, this was a fun match. This was a very entertaining, fun match. 205 Live, I really enjoy. And these guys, Drew Gulak, of course, I have to say he is a decent Cruiserweight champion. Really like where they're taking him as the champion. Humberto Carrillo, very entertaining in the ring. Always liked him ever since, he was down in NXT. And, it was back and forth between these guys. Drew Gulak got the win, with the roll-up. So Drew Gulak ends up winning the match, retaining the Cruiserweight Championship. Well, no, it was a very fun match. And then we had the second match that was on the Kickoff show, and a lot of people were pissed that this match was on the Kickoff show and not on the main card. And that was AJ Styles versus Cedric Alexander for the United States Championship. And I got to ask WWE, why put this match on the Kickoff show? This match should have been on the main card. Oh, just because Cedric Alexander, he's mid-carder, we got to put him on the Kickoff. But the match itself, I have to say, it was a good match, in my opinion. It was back and forth between Styles and Alexander. And both guys I'm fans of. And Styles end up getting the win. Styles clash to Cedric Alexander. So AJ Styles still wins, and retains the United States Championship. But overall, it was a good match. It was very entertaining. And I know possibly that they possibly might have a rematch, but who knows with WWE. That match was, to build interest. So they might have another match. Possibly it might take place at Hell in a Cell or on Raw. We gotta see. But overall, it was a good match. A very entertaining match between Styles and Cedric Alexander. Then you had the post match. Gallows and Anderson, they ended up coming out. They both end up beating down on Cedric Alexander. We saw Gallows end up laying out Cedric with a boot to the face. Oh no, that was basically what happened post match though. But very fun match, very good match between Styles and Alexander, Cedric Alexander. Now we're gonna start with the main matches on the card. So, Clash of Champions opened up with the Raw Tag Team Championship match. Dolph Ziggler and Roode versus Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman. Of course, Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman doing double duty tonight. They had this match with Dolph and Roode. Then they had their match later on. Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman. This was for the Universal Championship. But all in all, Dolph Ziggler and Roode. This is just a throne. WWE just threw Dolph and Roode as a tag team. They're not a legitimate tag team. So because the whole tag team division is fucking garbage. So WWE had no other choice but to pair Dolph and Roode together. They're not, like I said, they're not a legitimate tag team. So they just thrown them together. But all in all, I gotta say, this match itself, it was a okay match. Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman did decent here. But towards the end of the match, knew it was going to happen because, it's WWE logic. So, Roode got the win for him and Dolph. Roode ended up hitting the glorious DDT to Seth Rollins. So, Dolph Ziggler and Roode win the match and are the new Raw Tag Team Champions. Now, let's put the tag team titles on a legitimate tag team where they were just paired up just like that. So there you go. Dolph and Roode are your new Raw Tag Team Champions. And WWE had to do it because Seth and Strowman were going at it later on in the night. Which I'll say right now, Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman was the main event of the show. Post-match, we had Charlie Caruso interviewing Braun Strowman. Strowman was walking backstage. Strowman ends up telling Charlie Caruso that he didn't lose the tag team titles. Seth did. So Strowman says, just like Seth is going to lose the Universal Championship when he gets these hands. So that was a little interview that Braun Strowman did backstage after the match. So, I mean, you knew it was coming. You knew Seth and Strowman were going to lose the titles. Because it wouldn't make any sense, if they retain the titles and they have, they have the match together later on tonight where, Braun's facing, Seth for the Universal Championship. It wouldn't make any sense if they retained the titles. Then after that, we had Kayla Braxton. She was interviewing Becky Lynch. Of course, Becky had a match with Sasha for the Raw Women's Championship. So Becky ends up disagreeing with Strowman and says, both she and her boyfriend, Seth Rollins, are going to retain their titles tonight. Becky says Sasha is the one with everything to prove tonight. She says here and now. She goes on to say she already answered her critics with the greatest 12-month run in WWE history. She went on to say victory after victory and a litany of first evers. She said, Sasha ended up dyeing her hair blue. Becky goes on to say when Sasha aimed for her head with the chair, she called for the man. And she ended up saying, now the table is set and the man comes around. So that was the little interview with Becky. And then we had the SmackDown Women's Championship match. Bayley versus Charlotte. And, I gotta say, this match and, of course, the tag team match with Dolph and Roode, Seth Rollins, and Braun Strowman. To me, in my opinion, both matches kind of felt a little rushed. That's just me. That's in my opinion. That's how I felt about these first two matches. So yeah, Bayley versus Charlotte for the SmackDown Women's Championship. This match, it was a short match, and Bayley's playing like this, sort of like, oh, is she a heel or is she not a heel? Like something like that. She's acting like that. How would you say it? She's like, it's like so confusing because she thinks that she's a face, but she's really a heel. Because she's still doing the Bayley buddies. With her raising her arms, and you see the Bayley buddies going at it on the stage. But Charlotte during this match was dominating on Bayley throughout the beginning and towards the middle of the match. Bayley ended up coming back, and the match ended with Bayley untying one of the turnbuckle pads. She aimed Charlotte into it. Bayley ended up rolling up Charlotte, and Bayley ends up winning the match, still retaining the SmackDown Women's Championship. So after that, Bayley ended up running to the back, and basically that was that. So, but overall, it was a short match. My opinion, felt very rushed. So, we're seeing, Bayley, thinking, oh, is she a face or is she a heel in her mind? Like she's like being like a delusional heel, something like that, where like she doesn't think that she's a heel, and that's why she still has that that the same gimmick, with the Bayley buddies, hugging, the kids there. But all in all, it was a short match. I thought it was, rushed match. But who knows? We're possibly going to get a rematch at Hell in a Cell. So I sense that happening. Then we had the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match, the Revival versus the New Day, Xavier Woods and Big E. And the match itself, it was an entertaining match. It was back and forth between them. And what doesn't make any sense here, or that WWE did this by accident, or they couldn't wait until the draft, because yes, there is going to be a draft It's going to start on SmackDown. I think it's October 11th. It's going to take place on SmackDown. And then it's going to take place on Raw on October 14th. So WWE is basically doing another draft only because of the Fox deal with SmackDown. So SmackDown is going to have the first draft night, and then it will be Raw with the draft. So it's going to take place on October 11th for SmackDown and October 14th for Raw. And so what I'm saying is, at the end of the match, the Revival got the win. And the Revival are a Raw tag team. So the Revival end up winning. Scott Dawson locked in a trailer hitch to Xavier Woods. Xavier ended up tapping out. So the Revival win the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. And post-match, the Revival end up cutting a promo telling us, we're welcome. They say, or Scott Dawson says, they degenerate the way New Day carry themselves as champions and say we can consider ourselves revived. So they also mention about how Randy Orton is going up against Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship, and that we might see Randy Orton as the new WWE Champion. So that was basically that. So the Revival are your new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. So what does this mean? Sorry about that, but I was saying, what does this mean for the Revival now that they won the SmackDown Tag Team Championships? Well, it could mean that the Revival are the early draft picks for SmackDown. Because like I said, they're doing a draft. So this might be the early draft pick for SmackDown, with the Revival. But overall, match itself, it was, decent. It was an entertaining match. Then we had Charlie Caruso. She ends up interviewing Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Alexa was, looking like Harley Quinn. Really liked, how she looked tonight. Very pretty. So Alexa ends up deflecting the question that Charlie Caruso asked her. And Nikki Cross ends up saying that she thinks she made her point on Tuesday. About, with Mandy Rose. And she says tonight is about retaining their titles. So we see, a boom mic drops, and we see that R-Truth is the mic operator. Carmella was there, and R-Truth compliments Alexa's voice. So we see Alexa then grab the mic and tells all the 24/7 circus jobbers that R-Truth is right there. So we see the 24/7 jobbers, the circus, they all run and chase R-Truth, including Drake Maverick, which Drake Maverick then thanked Alexa for, that. So he ran off. But that was that with the interview with Alexa and Nikki. Then we have the match. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus Fire and Desire, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. Women's Tag Team match for the Women's Tag Team Championships. Match itself, it was okay. Not great or perfect by any means. But, there was a point in the match where R-Truth ran out and the whole circus was still chasing after him. Alexa ended up rolling up R-Truth, and Alexa almost became the 24/7 champion, which thankfully that didn't happen. So then after that, R-Truth runs out of the ring. Him and Carmella run into the crowd, and the whole circus runs after him, of course. And the match ended with Alexa and Nikki winning. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross winning. Nikki Cross ended up hitting the swinging neck breaker to Mandy Rose. There you go. Alexa and Nikki win the match. They still retain the Women's Tag Team Championships. And I wasn't surprised. There you go. Alexa and Nikki win it. I know they're possibly going to give Nikki Cross a push. I know that they're possibly going to set up, the breakup between, Alexa and Nikki, because I don't see this lasting that long with Alexa and Nikki. So WWE is possibly going to break up Alexa and Nikki, and Nikki Cross is going to face Alexa, and that's going to give a chance for Nikki Cross to be pushed. So, which I think she deserves it. Because I like Nikki Cross. I'm a fan of Nikki Cross. Ever since she was in Sanity. Which, yeah, we all remember Sanity. We all remember how WWE screwed that tag team over. That stable over. But yeah, all in all, match itself, it was okay. Then we had Shinsuke Nakamura versus The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship. Before the match got underway, The Miz ended up making his entrance. Then Sami Zayn came out. He was on the mic. He was complaining about how The Undertaker hurted him Tuesday, at Madison Square Garden on SmackDown. Sami Zayn came out. He was wearing a neck brace. He said, he's still here to support his guy, who is Shinsuke Nakamura. So the match got underway. Sami Zayn, of course, has the mic. He's cheering Nakamura over. And, Sami Zayn was cheering on Nakamura when eventually they end up cutting Sami Zayn's mic. And it was back and forth between The Miz and Nakamura. And, I thought that The Miz was going to win his 9th Intercontinental Championship win. But unfortunately, there was a distraction by The Miz, Shinsuke, Sami Zayn. I can't even fucking talk. The Miz was distracted by Sami Zayn. And that eventually led to Nakamura getting the upper hand. Nakamura ends up hitting the Kinshasa to The Miz. So Shinsuke Nakamura defeats The Miz, still retains the Intercontinental Championship with thanks from Sami Zayn. But the match itself, it was meh, in my opinion. Then we had Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship. I have to say, this was the best match of the night, in my opinion. Both of these ladies gave it all they got here. Becky Lynch did her best to try to defeat Sasha, but Sasha ended up kicking out of moves that Becky did, and it went all over the place. It went into the crowd, went into the concession stand. There's a point where Becky ended up taking down a ref. There was a point where where Becky ended up locking in the disarmer, on Sasha from under the chair, because Becky had like a chair, and she did the disarmer. And pretty much basically the match ended in a disqualification because Becky ended up putting her hands on the ref. So overall, match itself, it was the best match of the night, in my opinion. Then we had Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. Not a bad match, in my opinion. It was decent. Randy Orton trying his best to take the title off of Kofi Kingston. Kofi ended up coming back, delivering his shots to Randy Orton. And I basically thought Randy Orton was going to win this match. But, fortunately, Kofi ended up winning. Ended up hitting the Trouble in Paradise to Randy Orton. So Kofi ends up winning and still retaining the WWE Championship. Which, like I said, I thought Randy Orton was going to win it. He's probably thinking that he was going to take the title when SmackDown, goes to Fox. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. Now, because of this, I think Brock Lesnar is going to be taking the WWE Championship away from Kofi. So that way Brock Lesnar could go into SmackDown on Fox. Because Fox, eventually, from what I heard, if Ronda ends up coming back, they want Ronda Rousey on there, and then, they possibly want Brock Lesnar on there because, it's Fox Sports. It's going to be sports, centric. So my prediction, I think Brock Lesnar is going to take the WWE Championship off of Kofi Kingston. I've sensed that happening. All in all, Kofi versus Randy Orton wasn't bad. It was decent. Then after that, we had the Street Profits. Street Profits were backstage. They were giving their picks for, the King of the Ring finals, which is happening tomorrow night on Raw, which originally was going to take place tonight at Clash of Champions, but eventually that didn't even happen. So they end up doing like this Lion King thing where where they go Malavea, which was funny. Then we see Booker T come up. Booker T was doing his King Booker gimmick, that King Booker. Yeah, we all remember that. I like that gimmick of Booker T when he won the King of the Ring in 2006, where he defeated Bobby Lashley to become the King of the Ring. And I love that whole thing with Booker as King Booker. So Booker end up coming in with his King Booker gimmick. And he gives his royal declaration on who will win the King of the Ring final. So Angelo Dawkins interrupts and asks if, he'll knight him. And Booker's like, tell me you didn't just say that. And so Booker T ends up closing, the segment, with the, can you dig that, sucker? But hey, it was good seeing Booker T bring back, his King Booker gimmick, which, always loved that. Always loved King Booker. But it was fun. It was a fun backstage segment with them. Then we went to the possibly, in my opinion, bathroom break match. Eric Rowan versus Roman Reigns. No disqualification match, which it was announced on SmackDown that it would be a no disqualification match. My God, was this match fucking boring. This match was boring as fuck. I felt like I was going to fall asleep during this match. This was NyQuil inducing, this match. But it was back and forth between Rowan and Roman Reigns. It was so long. It was so dragged out. I didn't give a shit what was happening. But eventually we had Luke Harper. Luke Harper ended up returning here. He ended up helping Eric Rowan, of course. So Luke Harper ended up taking down Roman Reigns. Eric Rowan won the match with the Iron Claw on Roman. So Eric Rowan won the match. So there you go. Luke Harper is back. He returned. It was good to see Luke Harper back. I mean, it's been how long since we've seen Harper? So, overall, the match itself, it was boring as fuck. It was NyQuil inducing. So fucking boring. Sorry about that, but I was saying Eric Rowan versus Roman Reigns, no disqualification match. NyQuil inducing match. So boring. And that was that. Then we had Seth Rollins. He was being interviewed backstage. Seth says he doesn't give a damn what Strowman thinks happened earlier in the tag team title match. He says he has to focus on the future, and that's him defending the Universal Championship. Seth went on to say that he respects Strowman and even considers him a friend. He says it's not his time, and tonight isn't his night. So that was the interview with Seth Rollins. Then we had the main event, which was Braun Strowman versus Seth Rollins, Universal Championship match. And the match itself, it was decent. It was I was surprised by this match. And Strowman ended up starting the match, ended up with the shoulder block to Seth Rollins. And, Seth Rollins did a suicide dive. Strowman was sent into the announce table for like a second time later on in the match. And Seth Rollins, he ended up hitting some curb stomps. Strowman ended up kicking out of that. There was a point in the match where Strowman ended up going to the top, and he delivered a splash from the top onto Seth Rollins, which was cool. Then Seth ends up hitting, later on, he ends up hitting the curb stomp. Braun kicked out of that, hit another curb stomp. Strowman kicked out of that, ended up hitting a third curb stomp. Strowman kicked out of that. So Strowman gets up, and Seth Rollins gives Strowman the pedigree. So then after that, Strowman tries to get back up. Seth Rollins ends up hitting a fourth curb stomp. Goes for the pin. There you go. Seth Rollins wins the match. Still retains the Universal Championship. But overall, very decent match. Very surprised. I was very surprised by the match also. And so while Seth Rollins goes and makes his way back to the stage, this happened post-match. So Seth Rollins is on the stage. Lights go out, and we see that the Fiend was here. The Fiend was there. He ended up hitting Sister Abigail to Seth Rollins on the stage. Then the Fiend ends up locking in the mandible claw on Seth Rollins. And that's how Clash of Champions ended. So it looks like we're going to be getting The Fiend versus Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. And it's going to happen at Hell in a Cell, which is the next pay-per-view. So I can sense that happening. So that's going to be really cool to see. The Fiend versus Seth Rollins. Because there was talks that WWE was going to put the Universal Championship on Bray Wyatt or The Fiend. And, in my opinion, I liked it at first. But then thinking about it, I'm like, this is too soon. This is too soon to be putting a title around Bray Wyatt or the Fiend. You know, have them build him up some more, and then give him a title shot. You know, that's how I would do it. You know, but WWE is jumping to conclusions. They want to put the title around, you know, Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, you know, just like that fast. But we're gonna see that. We're gonna see it, guys. Watch the Fiend versus Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell. We're definitely gonna see that. But anyway, Seth Rollins versus Braun Strowman for the Universal Championship. Decent match. Very fun. Surprising match. Yes, anyways, that's it for my review of Clash of Champions. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. And definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And until next video, which will be the Raw review tomorrow night. So, until then, I'll see you all tomorrow night with the Raw review.